Okay, let me know if you can see my screen. Perfect. I'm assuming if Chris can show it, see it, and Rudro has 2 thumbs up for it, then others can see it as well. So, okay. Now, what do you think is the role or the responsibility of a general evaluator? Now, that can be a very complicated question. I have seen general evaluators give general evaluation that actually is longer than the session that has preceded it. But what Toastmasters says is very, very simple. The general evaluator is responsible for providing feedback on everything that has happened in the Toastmaster meeting. That's it. So you have to provide feedback on everything that has happened in a Toastmaster meeting. Now, that could mean that you even provide feedback about the number of chairs in the room or the number of absence of the table in the room, or you can choose to provide feedback about the things that are a little different. There are things that are quite good, about the things that could be a little better. I would strongly suggest that you put your general evaluation to this difference from the normal happening. Otherwise, you probably would have had some Toastmasters slipping at the back row. So let's find out how you are going to achieve all that. What are the guidelines that you have to follow? As Krish said, if there is a query, please put it in the chat. Krish will try to collate, or you may raise your hand and Krish will keep a note, and then we can have a small discussion at the end of it. I can promise you this much, that this would not be a very long session. Okay. So now that we are clear on the responsibility of a general evaluator, and as we say in every meeting of a general evaluator, that I cannot do it alone, I need a team. So this is where the G team is all about. So your team does not only consist of the 3 role players, which in some Toastmaster told me the other day, I'm looking for a tag. I was extremely confused. What is a tag? Then she explained to me it's a timer or counter in the Grammarian. So I, unfortunately, not being a millennial, has difficulty in debugging these sort of acronyms. But then it is not only the tag that is your G team, it also includes the speech evaluators. And often you would have other role players. Sometimes there is a table topic evaluator.
We lost you, Brati. Yes, Brati.
Seems my machine has crashed, so I'm trying to bring it up.
Okay,
In
okay.
the meantime, can you just ask Rudra to take over? If
I'll
can,
do that.
then
I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll
come
do
over
that.
and take a last part.
I'll do that. I'll do that. Thank you. Thank you. No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Newton's that law which kicked in. If anything has to go wrong, it will definitely go wrong, and it did. But we have, and that being said, we have our division director, Toastmaster Brati Sankar Ghosh, who is now going to start off with the general evaluation session. So Toastmaster Brati, if you're online, the screen is all yours.
Right. Krish, a small sound check. Am I
Yes.
audible properly?
Audible.
Right.
Everybody on video, if you
Yes.
could give a thumbs up.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So thumbs up when I was a kid, and in Bengali used to mean something entirely different. So nowadays it's quite different. So yeah, I'm getting used to it as well. So Rudro, I keep getting amazed every time I attend a session of yours by the simplicity with which you can define a particular thing. Thank you for doing that, Rudro. Okay, let's move on. And I will start from where I left. So just give me like less than a minute to get things working. And I hope you are able to see my screen as well, right?
Yes. I think,
Right.
Prati, you can start, yeah, from this slide, so that there are a lot of people who joined
Yes,
in late.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Krish. Okay, so we were just going through, or we just went through the responsibility of a general evaluator. So the responsibility of a general evaluator as defined by Toastmaster is very simple, by Toastmaster International. It is to provide a feedback on everything that happens in a Toastmasters meeting. So remember, from the point it starts to the point it ends, you have to give a feedback on everything. Now, of course, that is not possible. So what can you give a feedback on? You can choose to give a feedback on everything, started from the color of the chairs to what everyone is wearing to the meeting, or you can choose to give a feedback on some things that has happened differently from other meetings. And I suggest you do the you do the second, to end everything in time. For Toastmasters is most essential for us to abide by the time. So let's go through it a bit more, and we can come to this point in more details. So what is your team? Now, mostly we talk about our team as being the timer, accounter, and grammarian. The general evaluator will come to the stage and say, I cannot do it alone, and I have 3 role players to support me. Please remember, your team is bigger. The speech evaluators are part of your team. And in some cases, the other role players, we normally would have table topic evaluators if you are having a big table topic session. Some clubs have parliamentarians who looks for if you're if you're not following the protocols and so on, and wow counters and so on and so forth. There are several other creative minds who have come up with more role players. So all these is part of your team. So all these people are playing some roles that you are responsible for. Now, what would you do to make sure everything of this goes according to plan? You are the general evaluator, but your work starts before the session starts. So sometimes it does happen that you get a call about, or you arrive to a session quite free, and then the VP head holds you and says, oh, you're the general evaluator, you know. But let's hope, or let's consider a session that hasn't happened, and you know about it a little time earlier. So when you know about it, get these things from the TMOD or the VP head. Who is in your team? Who are the evaluators? Who are the tag, the timer, counter, and the grammarian? And then who are the other role players if the other role player does exist? And then, and I stress on this point, then you talk to the evaluators to ensure that they were aware of all the speech objectives. Of course, if you have a Krish or a Rudra or a Shayok or some of this level as an evaluator, probably you don't need to. But as a practice, if you do it, it will help you in the long run. So when you do that, when you call up the evaluator and say, okay, do you know which speech the speaker is delivering? You know, it rings a bell on the evaluator, say, oh yes, I also have to find that out. So I've often seen in a contest, or not in a contest, in a session, people would look up their mobile and quickly go through the objectives of the speech and then, give an evaluation. That is not justice done to the speaker. Remember, the speaker has spent quality time to come up with a speech. We as an evaluator need to provide as much of effort to evaluate that speech. So talk to your evaluator. If required, advise the evaluator to get in touch with the speakers. Now, not everything that is in the session, not everything that is in the objectives is what the speaker wants. They may want to be evaluated with more things. They may want to check whether a particular voice they have trying to figure out is good, whether a particular voice modulation or a particular joke they are trying out has worked out good. So if the evaluator reaches out to the speakers before and they can sort of find these things out, it always helps. Sorry, Krish, stopping for a session. If you could please make me aware of when it's 8:30 and when it's 8:35, that would be very nice.
Okay. 6 minutes
Thanks,
to 8:30.
Thank you. Yeah. So after you do that, after you advise the evaluators about talking to the speaker, then you look out for specific dropout points. So, you can talk to a person and you can feel that there is a chance that the timer may to time a bit. You know what I'm speaking? Just before the morning of the session, they would say, you know what, I am not sure I'll be able to. So try to figure out if such a drop can arise. If it does, talk back to the VP Ed and say, okay, this thing may happen. Can we have a support timer available? Now, in today's world of the online meetings, that would be very easy. In the in-person meeting, that is much more difficult. So we have to provide that extra effort to find that out. So that happens, what the activities before you go to the session. What happens just before the session? So you are the general evaluator. Remember, you have to notify, you have to observe everything that happens in the session. That can only happen when you don't arrive like 25 minutes late in the session, right? Okay, the general evaluator will be called by the TMOD, 15 minutes in the session, so I can arrive at the 12th minute. No, sir. You have to start from the first moment when the surgeon at arms starts writing on the board who are the role players are. That is the point you should be in the session. Please be there at least 5 to 10 minutes before the session starts. When you do there, either join the session or arrive at the session, make sure your team is present. It's not the VP's responsibility, it's your responsibility to find out everyone is present or on the way. If it is not, please talk to the VP Ed and try to get a replacement. Sometimes it's not possible, but let's try to do that. Most of the times we do get someone even in in-person meetings. Discuss if they're a replacement, again, discuss with the new role players whether they are comfortable with what they're doing, they know fully well what they're supposed to do. Make sure the timer devices are visible and working properly. This is especially true for online meetings. So make sure everyone knows the protocol, whether it's a screen being shared, whether it is a card being shown in front of the camera of the laptop. So note all those points, talk to the timer, and make sure that everyone knows how things will be. And then similarly, the word of the day is being prepared by the grammarian. Often I find the grammarian at the last moment, oh yes, I have to give a word of the day. They look on the search on the net and find out something and get. So all that works, but if you do this, it would look infinitely more realistic, infinitely more practical, so that is what we are trying to do in Toastmasters, to be realistic, to be practical, to be more professional. And that is what all of this would lead to. So that is just before the session. Moving on, during the session, you start taking notes from the first moment. So what I normally do when I'm a surgeon of arms, I put a small area for each role play, starting with the surgeon of arms to the president to TMOD and so on. And then I've put a note saying that, okay, guests, probably the president missed the guest, the TMOD picked it up. So it is a negative for the president, a positive for the TMOD. And so on. And you go on and on and on. So there should be a patch, or there should be an area designated in your notebook for each of these role players, and you put in the various different aspects you think has been good. Besides that, you can also note special things. Like, for example, in some sessions, I go and find out there is a video screen available. or a projector screen available where they have put in the agenda. Now that is always very much professional. So if you can go and advise to other meetings to do the same thing, that is something that you can take back. So take a special note of all this. Make a special note for the evaluators, the TMOD and the TTM, because they are playing the special roles on that day. The speakers have prepared. The TMOD and the TTM is also prepared, but their preparation is on a different level. So you are the person who are giving the feedback to them. The speakers are giving feedback by the evaluators. Give a feedback for the table topic speakers. If a table topic evaluator is not present, please give a feedback for the table topic speakers. Now there is two different sort of thoughts about whether you should give a feedback to the actual speakers, the prepared speakers as well. Now you can, normally what I do is I would provide a feedback to the speakers of the points which the evaluators have missed. Now, don't choose a point that is like, okay, you sneezed in between your speech. You know, that may not be important. Poor boy cannot stop sneezing. Like, yeah. So, so find out something that is really helpful for the speaker, and then give a feedback if the evaluator hasn't given the feedback. You ask the report from the role players. Normally, go for the timer. Start with the timer after the evaluation has been finished. Keep the grammarian and the R counter for the end, because then the grammarian and R counter will also be evaluating you, right? Then they will say, okay, Mr. General Evaluator, you have so many R's. You have so many R's that I found difficult to find the actual words in it. So this is something that you can get from the session. As I already, Krish, you may want to mute.
Yeah.
And then unmute me. Okay, yeah, fantastic. I thought you will never do that. Okay, and as we said, make a note of the best practices that is present in the different sessions. Collect those things and then present to the others. That's what Toastmaster is about. You know, distribute the best practices that are going on. To me, the last point I've noted over here is perhaps the most important one. I was talking when I started the first session that I have seen the general evaluation that goes on longer than the actual session that preceded it, that have actually happened. So try to keep your general evaluation within 4 to 5 minutes, of course, excluding the prepared speech evaluation, because you don't know how many prepared speech would there be. And they have a defined time, so you don't have to worry about that. But your whole general evaluation should not be more than 4 to 5 minutes. Only then you can hold the interest of the speakers, of the Toastmasters that are present. Okay, this is something that I very strongly feel, and I very strongly suggest that you follow as well. Okay, so that is all that I have. This is some references. This is from Toastmasters. This is called item 675B. You can search with this. This is a general evaluator checklist, very detailed. You can go through this. You can take it to your session or create a PDF and work on that. Yeah, doubts and feedback. So I will just I'll stop share and go to the chat. Okay, I see it's 8:30 now. So any questions? We can take a couple at least, and then maybe move on. Uday Agarwal, do we need to comment on speech evaluators' recommendations? If you think more important is to comment on the evaluation process, like has the evaluator used the right process to evaluate? Has he been enough insightful, enough supporting? Has the voice been good? Has been positive, and so on? So it's more important to give that evaluation. If after the evaluator has finished, you still feel that there is some very important point that the evaluator missed, you can include that. but it doesn't need to be another 3 minutes evaluation. It's just the point that you need to do. Okay, and you don't need to follow the CRC process or whatever other evaluation process. Thank you, Rudra. Farhan, ideally once done with G, does the G hand over the TMOD directly to the president or whoever is giving closing remarks? No, ideally he should hand over to a TMOD, but there is a difference to this process. But according to protocol, it would be back to the TMOD. Does that answer your question, Farhan? Okay, Syed Arif has a question. Is it recommended to tell the evaluator to use the sandwich method? No, but the evaluator must be very, very clear and crisp in evaluation. There are other processes than the sandwich process. I personally prefer the sandwich process because it's very defined. But there are other processes, and the evaluator is free to pick up those processes. The feedback that needs to go is the evaluator needs to be very, very crisp and clear about his or her evaluation. Okay, question from Diyashini. Does G evaluate the evaluator of the evaluator? Okay, so you are referring to the pathways, yeah, the pathways, path one, sorry, the level one kind of
P2,
evaluation,
yes.
right, Dashini? Yes, yeah. You can. It is not a big issue. He can do that, but that depends on the time. So if there is a time, you can do that. Okay, Protik, I'll take that as a last question. How to keep the general evaluation in 4 formats is a big constraint. Any tip to time box it? Yes, plan that. 4 to 5 minutes is a lot of time, Express. You can speak about, let's say, 600 to 700 words in 4 to 5 minutes when you're continuously speaking. And the general evaluator has to actually give evaluation to 3 people: the TMOD, the TTM, and the evaluators and the speech evaluators. So let's try it out. It should not be too difficult. You don't have to go into too much details. Yeah. If the occasion arises when the G does not agree with the speech evaluator, should the G be polite and ignore or offer suggestion? Okay, so if in Toastmaster, evaluation is an opinion. So there is nothing like we do not agree with you. What we may not agree is the process. So if you think the evaluation hasn't been supportive enough, yes, that is something you can feedback. But if there is a feedback from the evaluator that you think hasn't happened, you can simply say, okay, the evaluator feels like this, but personally I felt this was not right. This was something else. You know, that you can say. But in Toastmasters, it is very important to remember evaluation is a personal opinion. I may feel something, you may feel something else. And evaluation has to be exactly, as Satyadev very well points out, evaluation has to be something that I feel. Yeah, we should not say we felt. Okay, I guess that is all about today. I would, any other question, please feel free to ping me or send me an email or anywhere. Over to you, Krish, to close the session.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brati. And thank you everyone who's joined us. Brati, Rudra, myself, we were trying to get this session done long before COVID-19 started here. And we sent out a flyer, but then once all our timetables went for a toss, Toastmaster meetings went for a toss, we said, let's keep this on a back burner for some time. And now again, we have come forward with this, and we have done the second edition of Doubts Dissected, workshop. And I'm very happy that I had few of the most senior Toastmasters from our division who took care of all these queries and actually got doubts dissected literally. So to all these 29, 30 people who joined us today, looking forward to having you all play the Toastmaster of the Day and the General Evaluator roles. And you guys should win the best role player, right? So that's my challenge, which I throw to all the participants here and all those who attended. Though the general evaluator and the table and the Toastmaster of the day will be in the same voting category, but yeah, may the best one win. So that's about it. Thank you, everyone, and let's leave here and go and join the debate. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.